Talking of people in the dock, let's go stateside. Donald Trump in the dock. He's pleaded not guilty to all 4 election lies, as he calls them, charges during his appearance at a Washington, D.C. court. Let's get the thoughts. Steve Gill, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations, joins me now. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, James. Good to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining me here on Talk. So, we see Donald Trump in the dock. The more he is indicted, the more he is charged, the more he pushes this narrative that it's a conspiracy to get him out, to keep him out of office, the more popular he becomes. How do Americans, or why do Americans fall for this stuff?
Well, I think it's not a coincidence that this latest round of indictments came just one day after Hunter Biden's best friend and business associate threw him and his dad under the bus and then rolled the bus back and forth on them a few times, testifying that Joe Biden was intimately involved, basically, with his son's business interest, particularly in Ukraine and with China. And even in the days since, we've seen even more documents come forward showing the close relationship between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's business interests. So lo and behold, right after that, we see this designated prosecutor acting at the behest of Biden and his attorney general come after Donald Trump again. And yet, once again, we see Donald Trump's poll numbers, at least in the Republican primary, go up rather than down, because most Americans realize this is a persecution, not a prosecution.
You say that, but then on the other hand, you've got 2 presidential candidates, both of whom have a litany of legal claims underway, and those claims are pretty serious on both sides. Are these 2 candidates the best America can do?
I guess we're going to find out when we get to the fall elections next year. I think Joe Biden's problems are more severe than Donald Trump's. You can look at the evidence, particularly in this latest round, of what they have against Donald Trump. In this 45-page indictment, there's not one single citation of a statute or a law in the United States that Donald Trump is accused of breaking, other than an 1865 after the American Civil War statute that was intended to prevent intimidation of black voters freely released as slaves. There's no real legislative intent that they can point to that Donald Trump has broken. They're trying to silence him. They're trying to say that his questions about the election results were somehow a criminal act. And yet you have Hillary Clinton, you had Nancy Pelosi, our Speaker of the House, all questioning Donald Trump's election in 2016. None of them have been indicted. So it is clearly a one-focus sort of justice in America, where if you're on the wrong side or your name isn't Biden, you're going to get prosecuted. If you're a Biden, you get a free pass.
There are a lot of people, though, who look at Donald Trump's conduct, certainly from this side of the pond, and see it as quite extraordinary and almost unedifying that you had somebody who's sort of saying, let's march to the Capitol and all this sort of business. And then, of course, what happened on that fateful day. It does undermine confidence that the US is a stable and indeed democratic country, doesn't it?
Well, at a time when, you guys have so much chaos in England, you'll have to be looking across the pond going, thank God we're not them, as we look at sort of the chaos on this side. I think the real issue here is, they've got indictment after indictment after indictment of Donald Trump, and most of these cases are incredibly weak. And I think in this particular case, the prosecutor, who has not got a great track record in the past, has, I think, just opened Pandora's box, because as Donald Trump's lawyers are pointing out, he can now subpoena and put people under oath to ask them questions about the election results in 2020. They've literally just handed Donald Trump a cudgel to beat them about the head and ears, and I think they're going to regret that.
Do you think, just finally to you, Steve, do you think as a result of these court proceedings, these continued cases, do you think that they have now sealed the fate that Donald Trump will be the Republican nomination? There is no question he is going to be running for the White House, and indeed every further move they make makes him and emboldens him to be more successful and indeed to have more of a chance of returning to the White House.
Donald Trump has never been shy and retiring when attacked or accused of something. I think he's going to come out swinging at every level. I think he is the Republican nomination. The real question, James, is can he bring those independent, female, and younger voters to his side when we get into the fall election, the general election, maybe against Joe Biden? Increasingly, I believe it will not be Joe Biden on the other side. Can he bring those voters to bear? And that's going to be the real question as we head into the next November.
It certainly is. Well, we will keep our eyes peeled on that. Steve Gill, former advisor to both Clinton and Bush administrations, thank you so much for joining us here on Talk.